There have been over so many Megazords over the course of Super Sentai and Power Rangers, but I'm mainly leaning toward the Power Ranger side of things. What are my top 10 Megazords? Primarily the Primary Megazords for the core groups. 6 Ranger Megazords will be saved for another video, but for now let's do my top 10 Primary Megazords for the core groups of Rangers. At number 10, I have the Time Force Megazord. And you see, what I loved about this Megazord for almost nearly 20 years since Power Rangers Time Force was on the air, the Time Force Megazord has multiple modes that you can sort of, such as like mode blue being representing flight and speed, while mode red represents strength and power. And then when you form the Time Force Megazord in either red mode or blue mode with the Time Shadow to form the Shadow Force Megazord. Shadow Force Megazord is a great ensemble piece for that, because what I always loved about the Time Force Megazords is that they were, when I was revisiting Time Force over and over lately in recent years, and when I was also binging on In Space, I've noticed that the Time Force Megazords and the In Space Megazords have somewhat in common, because when you look at the Astro and Delta Megazords and the Time Force and Time Shadow Megazords, they got a similar, Ultra Zord combination sort of thing. Alternate Zord form, like Astro and Delta forming the Astro Delta Megazord, Time Force, Time Shadow forming the Shadow Force Megazord. So there was a parallel between In Space and Time Force with each other, because while In Space may be still the fan favorite, Time Force actually over trumps In Space in terms of Zords. Not that I don't like In Space, I still love their Megazords. But what I loved about the Time Force Zords, while the In Space Zords are all spaceships, Time Force Zords are ships, flyer ships from the future, except for the Quantum Rangers Q-Rex Quantosaurus Megazord. But also, when you have the Time Force Megazord in Jet mode, the Jet mode is mainly just to do a tornadic cyclone defense, on occasion. Even though the Jet mode was also pretty cool in its own right, but, I know it's pretty overlooked. And number 9 for Primary Megazords is, that I got on my list here. This one is an oddity, because I know that people don't like Megaforce, but the Gosel Great Megazord has always been one of my favorite Megazords from Megaforce. While as bad as Megaforce, Super Megaforce is, their Megazords are actually still cool to look at visually, and based on the functions and based on the attack movements it can do. The Gosel Great Megazord, you got a dragon, phoenix, shark, snake, and a tiger that's like a, bulldozer with a, with a tiger face on it. What I loved about the Gosel Great Megazord, it has these headers where you can switch out, and then you also can combine with other auxiliary Zords that the Megaforce team have, and that's something that I actually liked about the season. And it also can, do all kinds of combinations out there. And also what was commonly so similar to the Gosel Great was when they had the Gosel Jet Megazord, which was only around for like 2 episodes in season 1 of Megaforce. The Gosel Jet was very similar to Gosel Great in terms of design, but except the Jet being a big airplane, big purple airplane, is similar to Troy's Red Dragon Megazord. So that was something there as well. And also, the Gosel Great Megazord is very reminiscent to the Wild Force Megazord in terms of color scheme, where the pink/white Ranger Zord is like the left arm, I think. Blue Ranger Zord being a shark being the right arm or left arm. Black Ranger Zord, basically the difference between Danny's Bison Wild Zord and Jake's Snake Zord, Megazord, is that the Bison Zord for the Black Wild Force Ranger was the leg, the entire waistline and leg down, and Jake's Snake Megazord is just the right leg, while Gia's Tiger Zord is the left leg. So that was common. And then also with Troy's Dragon Zord, Red Dragon Megazord being the head and the chest of the Megazord. So it's still a cool looking Megazord, because it's one of my favorite at least one of the few aspects from Megaforce I do like. And number 8 is the Wild Force Megazord from Power Rangers Wild Force. Out of all of the Megazords from Wild Force, the Wild Force Megazord is one of my all-time favorites. Though you got, like I said earlier about the Gosel Great Megazord being like similar to the Wild Force Megazord in some ways, where the Red Ranger Zord is the head and the head and torso, White/Pink Ranger Zord being left arm, Blue Ranger's Zord being right arm, etc. The Wild Force Megazord has this unique Beast King-like design going for it, where you got a lion, a shark, a tiger, a bison, and an eagle to combine the Megazord, combine this kind of Megazord. And what's also cool about with the Wild Force Zords, and one of the few aspects I loved about Wild Force was, Wild Force being the first Power Ranger season where the Megazord would have all different kinds of Zords to make auxiliary Zord combinations with the Wild Force Megazord, even with Konga Zord and Ice's Megazord, that sort of thing like that. And with the Red Lion forming with what would be with a Pegasus, have the Ice's Megazords upper head, and then have Cole's Red Lion Wild Zord to make the Pegasus Megazord. So there was a lot of great combinations with this Megazord, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's a fan of Wild Force. And basically, I also used to have the toy version of the Wild Force Megazord. At least I didn't get no non-combinable one, because while it was a small deluxe set of Zords as the deluxe Wild Force Megazord, it did also have some great die-cast pieces on the Zords for the toy. Number 7 is... Okay, so at number 7 is another Megazord from the Neo Saban era, and this one is dinosaur themed. At first I wasn't fond of the Dino Charge Megazord, because back when Kyuryoger was on the air in 2013 at the time of Megaforce, and when Saban registered Kyuryoger to be adapted into Dino Charge, I wasn't fond of the Megazord designs for Dino Charge at all. At first, because I just didn't thought these Dino Zords would stack up with the original Megazord or Dino Thunder's, Thundersaur's Megazord. But the Dino Charge Megazord, for the last 5 years, I've seen it as the Dino Charge Megazord, not whatever it was known for in Kyuryoger. The design of it started to grow on me, even though Tyler's T-Rex Zord takes up the entire body, while the other Ranger Zords can be the arms, and Ivan's Terrazord can be the backpack wing piece for the Dino Charge Megazord on occasion. And also, when you have the Plesio Charge Megazord, you can have this bigger combination with the T-Rex Zord facing this way, and then you got the Plesio, taking another form for it. Because the Dino Charge Megazord was, it was a decent Dino Megazord, but although I feel like the design choices they had for it, when I look at it now, still 5 years later, even with the toy version I still got, the design choices they made for it via Kyuryoger and DC was like pretty busy, much like every other design detail Kyuryoger and Dino Charge had. But it's still on my top list of one of my top 10 favorite Primary Megazords. At number 6 is the Zeo Megazord from Power Rangers Zeo. For something that wasn't from the Mighty Morphin era, but with Zeo being the first season to have our first annual suit change and everything, and annual, series name change and such every year, also would have come, of course, our first annual Megazord, Primary Megazord change. Because for the last 3 seasons of MMPR having dinosaurs, mythical animals, and ninja animals, we needed something somewhat different with the Zeo Megazord. And the Zeo Megazord is basically, what I loved about it via its color scheme and not just its overall aesthetic. While I do mind its over-Egyptian pharaoh aesthetic going for it, I do like the color scheme of blue and gold for the entire Megazord, because it fits the mood of Zeo, because, to bring the majesty and, powerfulness to the team and the strength to the team, they gotta have blue and gold for the color scheme of the Megazord. And also with Tommy's helmet being, Tommy's Zeo 5 Zord helmet being the overall headpiece to represent the Red Ranger being a part of it. But I feel like the blue and gold took up a lot of, any chances of other color for the other Rangers. Although you got Rocky's Pharaoh cat-looking Zord, having all, of course, it's a more exception, but when you got Cat, Tanya, and Adam Zords, there isn't that much of their respective colors, which is all, well, Adam's a Zord, you know, Bull's, you know, Bison Zord, Taurus Zord, Zeo's Zord has, you know, black with some of the green and gold to it, while Cat and Tanya Zords had blue and silver with a little bit of gold and not much of their respective Ranger colors on the Zords. But I mind this Megazord combination, and it's still one of my favorite primary Megazords, but I still prefer the Super Zeo Megazord that they had later on during the second half of Zeo. Okay, now we're on to our top 5 Megazords, so we're going to get on with this one. For my next primary Megazord, I actually do like is the Wind Megazord from Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Since Ninja Storm only has Wind, Thunder, and the Samurai Star Zords, well, specifically, we're going to talk about the Wind Megazord. What I loved about the Wind Megazord and kind of didn't like is that despite that, you know, back when Ninja Storm came out and when it was the beginning of the Disney era, it was so unusual for me back then to accept that we were starting a group of Rangers that would start with 3 people, then 2 more, and then probably 1 more, because that was a running theme throughout the Disney era. And for a Megazord, you know, to have a 3-piece Megazord combination with Dustin's Lion Zord, Tori's Dolphin, and Shane's Hawk Zord, it was very unique for the time, and I actually liked the lightning mode also. But the lightning mode, one of the few things I didn't like about its lightning, you know, the lightning mode function, that, you know, it was, of course, it was based on what's in the Sentai footage also of Hurricaneger with that, is that the lightning mode is usually only 30 seconds. I wish that if the lightning mode was like a separate version of the Wind Megazord, I would accept it a little more. But when you got the Wind Megazord in itself with its thick Megazord armor, that's what makes it stand out. And the combination of the lion, you know, with the lion being the overall body, the dolphin being the only singular arm, while the lion's head being the other arm, and the Hawk Zord being the head formation to the Wind Megazord. It's a really impressive stand up to one of the other Ninja Megazords we have, but although I wish if it was on in another way around, but again, I wasn't really that fond of this Megazord earlier, but it started growing on me over time as time went on in the years after Ninja Storm aired. But I do like its combinations with the Thunder Rangers Thunder Megazord, and also when you make the Thunderstorm Megazord, and then when you got the Wind and Thunder Megazords and the Samurai Star Megazord, you get the Hurricane Megazord combination. That's another thing I liked about Ninja Storm Zords, is that combination, but we'll talk about Ultra Zords in another video. Speaking of Ninja Zords, number 4 is the original Ninja Megazord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. Shogun Megazord, I would mainly associate that with the Alien Rangers, but the Ninja Megazord is what I mostly prefer when it comes to, of the 2 Megazords that it had in Season 3, because it seemed like Shogun Megazord was a secondary Megazord for them when they already obtained the ninja powers from Ninjor. But the Ninja Megazord was always my favorite Ninja Zord from MMPR, because a crane, a wolf, a frog, a bear, and an ape to combine this, and then with Tommy's Falcon Zord as a backpack component, you get the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord, or what well, I'm not talking about the original MMPR movie with how they named it as Ninja Falcon Megazord, but I'm going by what the TV show called it, the Ninja Falcon, the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord. Yeah, I know it's kind of complicated when they go with that name, but I always loved the Ninja Megazord from MMPR because it was always one of my favorite Megazords. While one of the few step-ups I liked about this Megazord over the other 2 Megazords of MMPR was the Pink Ranger Zord didn't have much pink on it. The little bit of dabs of pink you can get to the Crane Zord is probably on the eyes, probably a little bit, or like some of the shades of pink in the eyes of the Crane Zord. But although in the original Bandai America toy, the Crane Zord had a pink neck, but that's different. But luckily, when Bandai did the Legacy toy, it was perfected better to look exactly how it looked on the show. At least the ape, Rocky's Ape Zord didn't look nothing like that CG Gorilla King Kong looking travesty in the movie, which I mind them sticking with for the TV show with how it looked in the Cocker Ranger footage. And I actually liked it the way how they did the wolf and the bear and the frog Zords, you know, better on the show. Whereas now when you compare that with the Ninja Megazord from the 1995 movie, which has been 25 years later now, Ninja Megazord from the movie is terrible. Stick to the TV show one. It's infinite times better. Okay, so I'm running out of time. So at number 3, I got another Megazord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's a Primary Megazord. It's the Thunder Megazord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2. When we, you know, the Thunder Megazord, no offense to the original Megazord, but the Thunder Megazord was my very first Megazord I actually fell in love with when I was a kid. Because Season 2 was when I really got aware of Power Rangers, because when Season 1 came out, and when it aired, I couldn't remember much of what the Dino Megazord was doing, other than the Dinozords can individually fight Monster or Goldar, turn to tank mode on occasion, and then into Megazord battle mode. But the Thunder Megazord was always my favorite Megazord of the 3 because it has this Samurai Shogun thing going for it. And it's supposed to be in an evolved version of the original, but except the Tyrannosaurus becomes a dragon, the Pterodactyl becomes the Firebird, Phoenix sort of bird thing that Kimberly gets. The Mastodon becomes a lion, but it has green to it because in Die Ranger, the Lion Thunder Zord belonged to a Green Ranger, and there was no Black Ranger in Die Ranger. The Triceratops becomes a unicorn, and the Saber-Tooth Tiger becomes the Griffin. So that was another thing I liked about the Thunder Megazord. I wish it can do much more than what it can do. The individual Thunder Zords, though, sadly, can only do so little. It was always, you know, I noticed commonly over the course of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, Red Ranger Zords are always getting the most amount of screen time than the others do. Same go for some Six Ranger Zords like Tommy's Dragon Zord and Tiger Zord and Falcon Zords. And that was another common thing I've noticed in MMPR and actually for the rest of the entire series. And the Red Dragon Thunder Zord can stand out on its own, just like, you know, the Red Ranger's Tyrannosaurus Dino Zord. And also the individual Thunder Zords can also exist to form with Tommy's Tiger Zord to make the Mega Tiger, the Mega Thunder Tiger Zord, whatever you call it, combination. Number 2. So we're getting close to my number 2. So we're getting close to my number 1 all-time favorite Primary Megazord. I wanted to do the Lost Galaxy Megazord at number 2, but nah, I feel like that started growing me worsely in terms of its aesthetics, so skip it. I'll probably have it as an honorable mention or dishonorable mention, probably because of its aesthetics. But at number 2 is the Astro Megazord from Power Rangers in Space. This is always a fan favorite with a lot of Power Ranger fans with this Megazord. Astro Megazord becomes a mega ship, then the Megazord, and then forms with the Astro Delta, you know, the Delta Megazord to form the Astro Delta Megazord, like I said earlier with the Time Force Megazord. The Delta Megazord, you know, was a great component for the Astro Megazord and an extension to it. But when you look at the Astro Megazord in itself, I like the color balance of silver and blue, where it's all blue. It's just a two-piece Zord where the shuttle that's inside the Mega Ship is the head, while the entire ship is the entire Megazord body. And I always loved this Megazord. I wished I had the toy version of it as a kid, like the deluxe version that becomes the Astro Mega Ship. And instead, over the years, I had, you know, versions of the Astro Megazord that doesn't become the Mega Ship, which has always been disappointing. But nevertheless, it's one of my all-time favorite Megazords. And also, this and the original Megazord both got this Optimus Prime face vibe going for it as well, with the mouth, you know, the mask piece for the mouth for the Megazord. And obviously, number 1 is, of course, the original Megazord, because the original Megazord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, or known as Dino Megazord in some cases, is an iconic Megazord because we get, like, you know, we're almost 30 years of Power Rangers at this point, right? And you would think that as we're getting close to 30 years of the franchise, we would have so many toys of this original badass Megazord that began the Megazord legacy, with the Tyrannosaurus, Saber-Tooth Tiger, Triceratops, Pterodactyl, and the Mastodon. And you look at this Megazord combination, going from its individual Dinozord modes to the tank mode to the Megazord mode. It's so iconic because this is why it's a number 1 Megazord, because it still resonates to a lot of us that know about Power Rangers. MMPR in general, or whenever anyone thinks of giant robots in any form of pop culture, or especially culture that came from Japan to come here in America for us to be, and fawn over, much like with the Transformers or Voltron. And when you think about giant robots and children's entertainment and stuff like that, or toys of the 80s and 90s, the original Megazord always will come to mind when it comes to like the G1 Transformers and Voltron, the Lion Voltron, not the vehicle one. But the original Megazord, as I digress with the Voltron part, but the original Megazord, like I said with the Astro Megazord, the original Megazord is very much like Optimus Prime if he was prehistoric, but he's a 5-piece robot with all these different dinosaurs. Well, although with the exceptions of the fact that Mastodon, saber-tooth tigers may not be considered as dinosaurs, but they're still part of the Dinozord set. And I always loved the Dino Megazord because of how, regal and iconic and classic it is. I mean, all the other Dino Megazords we had over the years is fine, but you just still can't top this Dino Megazord. So there you have it. What are your top 10 favorite Primary Megazords? Let me know in the comments below. Next time, we're going to tackle my top 10 6th Ranger Megazords. Thanks for watching.